Welcome to the first lecture of pre-calculus. This is section 1.3, functions. I want to remind you that it is my intention to have these blank typed notes available for you in Blackboard. I say it is my intention because I recognize that I do not have all of these developed for every lecture yet, and life happens, and there is the possibility that I run out of time at some point and decide that it's more important for you to have a lecture with handwritten notes than it is for me to have pretty lecture notes and no video for you. So it's my intention, but I recognize that it may run into issues. But I will have these up and available for you as soon as possible because it is not my intention to miss typing one of these up and then never to create it. Okay, that said, now the way these lectures are going to work, it's pretty much the same as if you were in class with me. If you were in class, I'd be using a document projector and I'd be using these same sheets of paper and I'd be working them out exactly the same way. The difference is that you don't have to listen to as many of my bad jokes. You don't have to see as many of my stupid errors, and believe me, I do make them, and there is an outtake reel. And also, you can stop this, you can rewind it. You don't have to ask me to repeat anything. You have it, you can stop it, you can flip me off, you can yell at me, you can call me names. You have all of that freedom you would not have in a normal classroom. And I know that's important. I was a student too. Okay? So the first half of this class is probably review. It is college algebra material, but this is all stuff that is extremely important for you to really understand once you get into calculus. You want this stuff to be as familiar to you as 2 + 2 = 4. Okay? I promise you I am not going to waste my time or yours covering something that is not important. Okay, so let's dive in. 1.3. Definitions and notation for functions. A function is a set x to a set y is a rule that assigns each element of x exactly one element of y. The set x is called the domain of the function. Okay, an informal definition of domain is all legal x values. We're going to get more into that in a minute. The set of those elements of y that correspond or are assigned to the elements of x, that's called the range of the function. And another way of thinking about range is all possible y values. Okay? A function is a very specific type of a relation. A relation is any set of ordered pairs. I could list ordered pairs and it would be a relation. Any kind of squiggle you could put on a graph would be a relation. Okay? A relation may or may not be a function. This is the same kind of concept that a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square. A function is a relation. A relation may or may not be a function. Okay? Now, when a relation is a function, a relation normally has like y equals something. But if it is a function, then we can make it more specific. Y can be replaced with function notation, which is read f of x. Okay? And this is called the value of f at the number x, f of x. So if you see y equals something, it's definitely a relation. It might be a function. It might not be. But if you see f of x equals something, you definitely have a function. So it's like y, but it means more than y. It just gives you a little bit more information. Okay, so let's look at some example problems. We're supposed to find the domain and range of each of these relations, and I'll explain this kind of notation. And then we're going to decide whether or not the relation is or is not a function. Okay, now when you see this kind of notation, these represent two sets. And this is always your x set, and this is always your y set. So this is your domain, and this is your range. Okay? So we're asked to list the domain and the range, and we're going to list these in set notation. Since there are a finite number of x values, we are just listing sets, and we'll use commas between them. So our domain is 1, 2, and 3. Our range We have 4 elements, A, B, C, and D. All right, so we know we have a relation. We're told that for 1, but you could also make ordered pairs out of this. Okay, so this, if I made an ordered pair out of this, it would be 1A and then 1B. This is not something you're going to need to write. This is more for explanation here. And then I have 2C and then 3D. So I do have a set of ordered pairs. It's just written in a different format. Now, when we're determining whether or not we have a function, what it says is that each element of x has exactly 1 element of y. Right here, this is an element of x. I have 1 here and 1 here. And it is associated with 2 different y values. So this does not fit this definition. This is not a function. And FN is a common abbreviation for function. Now, another way of thinking about this is we cannot have repeated x values. So since we have a repeated x value here and here, it's not a function. If you're just looking at it here, this x value goes to more than 1, and that's what's not allowed. Now you can have a repeated y value, just no repeated x values. All right, let's look at this one. It is the same type of problem, just written in a chart format rather than a picture. This is like a T-chart that's written horizontally. You have your ordered pairs here. So you have 0, -1, 3, -2, and so on. Okay? We're again asked to list our domain and range, so let's do that. The domain would be your x values. Now we do have repeats here. You only need to list them once. So 0, 3, 8, and then 0, 3, and 8 are already listed, so that's good. Now, technically speaking, it's not wrong if you list the values more than once, but I believe my math lab counts it wrong if you list it more than once. And unfortunately, because we are doing all of this online, we have to not only be correct for math, we have to learn to play my math lab's rules. So don't list it more than once, okay? Now for our y values, that's our range. These would be the values -1, -2, -3, 1, 2, and then 2 is already listed. Okay, we have repeated y values, and that's okay. What is not okay for this to be a function is that we have repeated x values. So this is also not a function.